Jay, thank you for joining us. He is our resident analyst, our former Buckeye and former NFL defensive end. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Thank you for having me. Feeling good, easing into this off season. And there's just so many different storylines across all sports. But right now, we know what's going on. It is football time. It is combine time. And the next generation of youngsters is going to show the NFL what they can do. Maybe give them a shot at the next level. We have 8 Buckeyes who will be at the NFL Scouting Combine this weekend. I'm going to rattle them off really quick. Quarterback C.J Stroud, offensive tackle Paris Johnson Jr., offensive tackle DeJuan Jones, big guy, defensive end Zach Harrison, corner Cam Brown, safety Ronnie Hickman, wide receiver Jackson Smith-Njigba, and center Luke Whippler. But before we get into our Buckeyes, I'm going to turn to you, our former Buckeye. You went through the Combine. Oh. I have some of your numbers here, but before we get into the stats. Not fun stuff.
How was it for you? Because I feel like I've never gone through the Combine, never had the chance to participate.
Trust me, you don't want to do it.
Though I would like to go through the drills just to see. I'm so painfully average, so I would just be curious what kind of numbers I'd rather have.
So it's interesting. The Combine's changed over the years. I've been to it since, obviously, I participated eons ago. And one thing I can tell you is back when I did it, it was a meat market. Like, it was very brutal and almost cruel what they put some of us kids through. I mean, you're literally walking around in spandex, so you're like in your skivvies, as they call them. Basically your underwear and nothing else.
That's uncomfortable.
And that's what you're wearing for the whole weekend. I mean, you're just walking around in front of crowds of people that you do not know, half naked. Everyone's judging your body. Everyone's measuring everything on you. Everyone's trying to ask you weird questions in these interviews. Late at night, you get called in for interviews with teams.
Like, how late?
Oh, it could be 11 o'clock and you'll get a buzz on your phone.
After your day's done.
Absolutely.
You're trying to relax. You're trying to decompress a little bit. And they're like, hey, why did you do this? Why did you say this?
After a stressful day. Okay, you get a phone call 11 o'clock in your room. Hey, New York Jets want to talk to you in conference room B. You head on down there and you sit, and there's the whole staff, you know, GM, some of the coaches, execs, and they'll ask you anything. I mean, they'll ask you about.
What kind of questions did you get?
So when I was at Ohio State, I had a reputation for enjoying the nightlife a little bit, which, you know, Columbus, Ohio nightlife, right? Here's what they didn't understand. I started a system of parties for profit when I was on campus.
Oh, did you?
So
you were a businessman.
Oh, I was an entrepreneur in every sense of the word. There's a place called Olentangy Commons, is like where you, is housing, for younger people, I would say. And I would rent out the pool house. I would barter some tickets to rent out the pool house, and then I would essentially make flyers. I drew these flyers myself. This is back before social media, Kellyanne. When you wanted to invite people to an event, you had to hand out pieces of paper. Hey, check this party out we're having. I'd invite all the athletes on campus. Pretty girls were in free before 11. Everybody else had to pay. And I would have people, I had a whole system. I got some kegs from a local place, and I would tap them, and I'd have people in. You get a red cup, whatever. The point is, I'd throw these events, every 2 weeks. They did very well. They became profitable. This was how I paid bills. Before NIL, I had to make my own NIL.
Right.
Okay.
Was this legal?
It's not the point, okay? It was ethical and it was effective. At the end of the day, years later, I'm at the Combine, and I'll never forget, one of the guys from the New York Jets goes, "So, you're kind of a party animal, huh?" Oh. And I was like, "Excuse me?" And he goes, "Yeah, they hire FBI to do background checks, and they dig into everything, and they find out everything."
They found that out?
They found that out, shocked the hell out of me. I was like, "No, not really a party guy." And they were like, "So you didn't used to throw parties on campus?"
Like, we have the receipts, so you didn't do all this.
Yeah, I was like, I organized the events. It was a for-profit thing I was doing. I was like, but I wasn't the one drinking. Like, I was never a big drinker, never, a big in the mix. I just, it was an economic thing. Okay?
Did you defend yourself? From like, I was using that to pay rent.
And they were basically saying, like, well, in New York, you're going to have a lot of opportunities for that. Like, we don't want you to be distracted. Do you really love football, or would you rather come here and start a business and be trying to party? And I was like, no, that was just a college thing. Like, this is serious to me. I'm very serious about it. Whatever. The point of the matter is, these are things that they'll ask you about. They'll ask you about anything. You hear every year, and there will be a story this year, I promise you, where some team's going to ask a player, one of these young kids, some bizarre question.
Something very uncomfortable.
And it'll make headlines. There's psyche evals that they put you through. There's, mental aptitude tests. And then, of course, there's all the bevy of, as you'll have on that paper, physical tests and ways to measure what's inside of a guy. One thing they cannot measure at the combine is how much you love football, how hard you're going to work once you get boots on ground for a franchise, and if you can keep distractions out of your periphery while you try to have a career. Those are the important things.
I love that. Those are the intangibles that they can't gauge. But
Absolutely.
the tangibles they can gauge is your athleticism and for
Yes.
your 40-yard dash. And he came to correct me. I found these online, but he's like, this isn't
online's
accurate.
never what you think it is. Don't believe that, folks.
But I mean, okay, so you ran a 480 for the 40-yard dash. Your 3-cone drill, which is really important. 750, sub 8 seconds.
Yeah, so listen.
And you're a big guy. He's a big dude, though.
I was way bigger back then. I was
Big
like
dude.
280.
Yes,
As you can see on the height and weight.
yes.
I think I measured 6'6", 280 at the combine.
Yeah,
and so I was moving pretty well.
I was going to say, moving pretty well.
For a guy with strep.
Okay, well, yes, we'll get into that too. So 480 for the 40-yard dash, and then let's see who's your bench press. Okay, so you said
Again, I was in poor physical condition at that time because of my illness. So I only bench press 225 like 20 times, I think.
You did 225, and then you did it. Originally, it said I found 20, but he corrected and said 28. So 28.
It was 28. So I did
bench
it
225?
I did it 30 at pro day. Just to so that made me extra draftable. Okay, cool. He's not a weakling. He just was sick that day.
And mind you, he still had a successful career in the NFL. Look at Tom Brady. So you can still.
All these numbers are not
but
indicators of who's going to be successful.
Can you still bench 225?
I can do it. God's honest truth, if I had to bench press 225 right now, I could probably get it about 18 times.
Okay.
I probably wouldn't.
We might have to put him to the test.
I mean, you guys can bring some weights in here. Listen, I'm no scrub now. Okay.
No, he's always in the gym.
I'll get it up about 18 to 20 times.
You're
but I'm not doing 30.
Big dude too. You were a big dude, so you were moving. But you mentioned that you had strep.
Yeah.
And you still went through with the combine.
That's the kind of pressure I think a lot of these kids are under, where you don't know when your next opportunity to be in front of people that could change your life is going to come. And that's the real reality of this experience. You work your butt off all through, middle school, high school, college, for an opportunity to maybe get to audition for the big show. You get the audition, something comes up, who cares? No one's going to give you any excuses when you get to that point. So my agent told me, listen, I know you're not feeling up to it. You have one crack at this. You don't know who's going to be there on pro day a month later or who's not going to be there. What you do know is everyone's here for this weekend.
Yeah.
Do something. Give them what you got. And I was like, let's do it. And I just went out there and was like about to pass out half these drills and just running up and down. I was just feeling awful. And I guess it worked out.
Yeah, it worked out for
you gave me good advice, but it's the most stressful time of these kids' lives.
Yeah.
It's going to be nerve-wracking. You're going to see all the kids you're competing against. That's the interesting part. You get in there in your underwear, and you're standing like on a podium. There's all of these other guys who are built just like you. It's like if you're a defensive end and you're on the day of all the D linemen, you're going to see a whole bunch of other guys who are 6'6", 280. And you're like, oh, those so-and-so from Alabama, and there's the kid from TCU, and there's the kid from USC, huh? And then you kind of get a feel for how you stack up physically against some of these kids. And then it's just like the most awkward thing where after they get done, back then they did like the body fat pinch test and they put you in the bod pod to get your body fat and to get all these measurements. Then you all strip down, like you take off your shirts and everything. And once again, you're back in your skivvies and you have to walk up on stage. And on this stage is like a platform. That's where they'll do your height and then they'll do your weight. And then as you look up into the crowd while you're on the stage, there is every single head coach or GM you've ever heard of. You'll see Bill Belichick, and back then it was like Marvin Lewis, and you'll just see all of these guys in the crowd, Pete Carroll, and you're like, oh man, like that's everybody. And these are
so nerve-wracking.
People that you've seen on TV when you watch NFL games.
And you're trying to press them to get a job, and you're like.
So these kids will see Mike Vrabel, and they'll see all these guys.
Like, oh, in the flesh.
And in the flesh, Sean Payton will be there because he's the head coach of the Denver Broncos now. And it becomes like you start to kind of sweat a little bit. You're like, uh-oh. And you don't know what you can do differently at that point. So you'll see off stage, this is like a funny aspect of it, off stage, I looked over, and all these guys are doing like push-ups, and they're doing crunches and planks.
Trying to get that body
They
pump.
want to have like a pump
Yes.
for when they take off their shirt
Yep.
and go on stage. And the guys who are like maybe not assembled the best physically, they just like don't even care.
They're like, at
"Dude,
this point, it is what it
if
is.
I'm
You
chubby,
get
I'm
what you
chubby.
get. You can mold me in the
They're
NFL.
gonna get a chubby guy, and that's what it is. So yes, I did do a couple push-ups. I'm not gonna lie. I dropped down and got about 50.
I wouldn't
in.
expect anything less.
Of course, you just want to, you want to put your best foot forward.
Yeah.
So then you go up on stage, you're all sweating. You stand up on the scale. They weigh you. They call out your weight to the whole room.
A nightmare.
So that like all the coaches see.
My personal nightmare.
Like on the scale, they're like 279.8, and everyone. And then you see all the coaches like in their clipboards writing stuff down. Like, okay, let's just wait. They do the height. They're like 6.0, and then all y'all look in the crowd. They're all like writing on them like. Okay, like you could have just asked me. You don't have to scream it out like that.
You don't have to project it
Seriously.
to the masses.
And then they'll like scream out your body fat, and then they have you like stretch out your arms, and someone comes behind you with the tape measure, and they're like 75 inches or something. I don't know. I had like the third longest wingspan that year at the combine.
Throw it out there.
And it just, whatever, it helps. And then of course they're all writing out, and then like you just walk off stage, and then the next guy comes up, and you're like, this is so weird.
Crazy.
And it's very, very uncomfortable.
When
I'm
you
not
put
gonna lie.
it like that, when you've actually gone through it, it's
Would anybody out there want to do this? Because
odd.
it's not fun.
No, but it worked out for you either way.
It did work out. It's part of the process if you want to get to that level.
I know you were sick and you had about a pro day, but do you think that going through the combine helped you when you got drafted?
At the end of the day, absolutely. A lot of teams have questions that you don't even know that they have concerns about.
Yeah.
So the combine, they'll test all of your joints. You'll do like a kick your leg out in this it's like Cybex machine. That will give them confidence in your knees. They're like, okay, cool, you don't have any injuries. And then some teams just want to get a look at you up close. Like they want to walk up to you and
He's really 6'6".
Right? Like in another bizarre thing, they'll walk right up to you and they'll like grab your shoulders and like they're like, oh wow, this guy's solid, okay.
And you just take it, you're like,
and you just stand there.
you have to do
and
it.
Like every coach that you meet that shakes your hand is gonna pull you in close and they're gonna like squeeze on your like shoulders and traps and deltoids, and it's the weirdest thing. Some want to squeeze your hand really hard, like have a stare off, and you're like, dude, I'll crush your hand, but how's that gonna help either one of us? It's the weirdest thing. But they want to get a good look at you. They want to get a feel for, is this a guy we're about to invest over $500,000 to $20 million in?
Yeah.
Like that's the key. If you're going to make that kind of investment as a company, you want to make sure the product can deliver. And
make sure you're getting that return on investment. That's for sure.
Listen, I started as a rookie, so this product delivered.
That's right. 8 years in the NFL,
Just
right?
saying.
8 years.
7.
Seven. Sorry, 7. Still a long time. And you did deliver.
Anything over 4, you're good.
Exactly. Now let's get into the Buckeyes currently going through it.
We got some youngsters trying to do their thing.
We do. I'm going to start with C.J. Stroud because according to
Top dog.
reports, he will be throwing at the combine. So will Anthony Richardson for Florida, Will Levis with Kentucky, Bryce Young.
Oh, Will's got to.
Yes.
I've met Will up close.
I've seen Will up close at Tennessee when they played Kentucky.
Uh-huh.
But Bryce Young will not be doing that. He supposedly is electing out and is going to wait for his pro day.
Bet I know why.
With C.J. Stroud, are you surprised that he's electing to throw?
Yes and no.
That's kind of how I felt.
Here's why I'll say I'm a little surprised. I'm a little surprised CJ's going to throw because he has such an amazing body of work on film.
Yes.
You can cut on film and you can watch C.J. Stroud throw against all the best competition in the nation, including the championship Georgia Bulldogs and their vaunted defense. And you can watch C.J. Stroud pick them apart from every single angle, make guys miss, display his mobility.
Finally against Georgia, that was so nice.
He finally pulled out the wheels on them. And when you see that, you're going to go, it's hard not to, objectively, it's hard not to look at what he did. And I talked to a buddy of mine who works for ESPN and is also, should be a GM in the NFL, Louis Riddick. And Lou says, I don't know that he's not the best guy out there right now, like at the quarterback position. Like from what I saw in Georgia, like that's a guy I want.
Yes, I think he proved a lot of things that people were missing because he's the best pure passer, but finally showing that mobility that the other guys possess. We now know CJ can do it. And he mentioned that he would run in practice and stuff, but we finally saw him ability to make plays outside of the pocket, extend plays with his feet, and I think that was what sold it.
That's clearly what sold it, but when you ask specifically why it's surprising, that's the answer. Why it's not surprising, When you have the goods and you know you have the goods, when you got the cannon, because CJ's, can tell right now, C.J. strapped up. Boy got a cannon. You want to show it off because you have something to prove. You're looking at all of these. He reads all the headlines. He has a Twitter account. He scrolls and sees all of the Todd McShays and all these guys giving their take on how Bryce Young is the clear-cut #1 guy. And some people think Will Levis is going to be right after Bryce Young. And CJ's like, hold on.
Wait a minute.
Let me remind y'all of what you have a chance at getting. So he's going to display the product for them. That makes sense. He's going to give them a little sample of it, as you have to sometimes if people have doubts. They shouldn't have doubts, and I'm not being a homer in that. I've watched a lot of athletes. I've watched a lot of quarterbacks.
Fantastic.
Seen him up close, and I'm telling you right now, whoever gets him, it'll be the same situation as, Justin Fields falling and then going somewhere where the guys in front of him all didn't pan out. Same with Lamar Jackson. The guys in front of him, other than Pat, didn't really pan out like that. And then he falls to Baltimore. He becomes an MVP. Like, CJ has the kind of ability that he could be MVP. Like, his high end is he could be a NFL MVP. A lot of these guys don't have that kind of ceiling. I don't know that Bryce Young has that kind of ceiling from a physical standpoint. And I think CJ wants people to know that.
And I think, too, it looks good, right? When you're going to opt in and be like, hey, I'm going to go through this. I'm going to participate. As you mentioned before, why not? You have all of the representatives from the NFL, so you have nothing to lose. For him, like you mentioned, too, he has the cannon. He's just going to show it off. But for character-wise, CJ's such a hard worker. He's a leader. I think he rises to every challenge. So it doesn't also surprise me that he's like, yeah, I'm going to go do it.
And, Kellyanne, you know what it tells those GMs and those coaches? He was willing to compete. I think that's what they want to see. Like, are you a competitor? Are you somebody that's going to hide from the spotlight? Or are you going to come on the biggest stage and just compete with the other guys in the room?
I agree with that.
At the end of the day, that's all they really want to see. That's what got me. I was going to compete at every drill, sick or not sick. Like, I'm going to rock and roll, and we're just going to see where the chips fall. They're just looking for a guy that's got a little dog in him. Like, I want to see who wants to go out there and compete. And I think guys that shy away at the combine, and I get it, if you're like in the top 5 pick, you maybe don't want to go out there and risk anything. But they like that.
Yes, exactly. So we're on the same page there.
Absolutely.
I like that. But I guess here's my biggest question. And I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to say what mine is. Who do you think needs to have the best combine? But I think you're going to say who I'm going to say. First, Jackson Smith-Njigba. I also say Cam Brown, but let's start with Jackson. We haven't seen Jackson play to Jackson Smith-Njigba level since he broke records in the Rose Bowl. That was over a year ago. Obviously, he had that injury he's battled with. There was a lot of controversy with him sitting out, especially the postseason. Again, he made it clear, Ryan Day went to bat for him, C.J. Stroud went to bat for him, that he was listening to doctor's orders. So that's what we've heard, right? But he has a lot to prove. I think his 40-yard dash, his agility, everything is something that would really help him because before he was a certified first-round pick. He still is. From what I've seen lately, he's either the 3rd or 4th wide receiver to be taken off the board. Looks like he's going to be a late first-rounder, maybe can fall out. So I feel like he has to have a really good combine to up his draft stock.
So JSN is in almost an opposite scenario that C.J. Stroud is in, but for very different reasons. Both have fantastic film. You cut on Jackson Smith-Njigba's film, my God. That is the #1 overall wide receiver in this class, just purely based on his film. He can make guys miss. He has short area quickness. He has long speed. He can run every single
really
route on the route tree. He understands concepts. He knows how to find pockets in a zone defense, sit down in space, catch the ball, make a guy miss, cut it up, get you a first down. These are all things that, it's hard to teach. He has instincts. He has a fantastic catch radius for not a massive, wide receiver. He's not a super tall, maybe 6'1".
Around 6'1".
But he's strong and he's athletic as all get out. So when you look at that, you're kind of going to ask yourself, okay, what's he missing? All they really want to know is if he's healthy and if he's 100%. So he has to go and compete hard at the combine, not because his film's lacking and he's trying to boost himself. He just wants to show them that the guy you saw on film,
I'm still that guy.
That dude's right here in front of you. And he's at full capacity. That way, if they draft him, They want to know that they can bring him right into OTAs and training camp without having to like limit his reps and all that stuff, because that can be difficult for a team that drafts a guy. You look at Jamison Williams, you know, he's coming off that ACL a year ago. He gets drafted by the Lions. He doesn't play really until week, I don't know, I think it was like 12 or something like that. He finally got on the field. You don't want to invest in a pick that you're not going to see a return on for a long time. With JSN, he wants to show you're going to get instant return on investment. Just trust your eyes, trust what you saw on that film, and oh, by the way, I'm going to support it with going out here and running. Now, I think this is very critical for him. If Jackson Smith-Njigba runs anything below a 4.48, if he runs a 4.40, if he runs a 4.39,
I think
he rockets right up the draft board to into that top 15 area easily.
I agree.
Because when you have that kind of film, all they're looking for is if you're healthy. Well, if you can run a sub 4.40,
you're healthy.
You're healthy.
We're not worried about that hamstring anymore.
Exactly. When they see that, it's over. Because he's already been labeled a wide receiver one. Like he is your primary target on anyone's team right now if you draft him. If he's healthy, that's all they want to see.
And that's the hard truth about this, right? Is the health aspect of it. As you mentioned, the teams don't want to invest if they have a guy who's lingering health issues, and that's where I bring up Cam Brown. And that's why the combine's also going to be important for him, because he's battled with so many injuries. He's missed 12 games over the last few years. So those tests, those health tests, are going to be really, really important
critical for him. Running for him, the lifts, the side backs, check the joints. He has to put up numbers.
He really does.
That make people open their eyes and go, oh man. And I think someone will fall in love with him if he does that. If he looks pedestrian at the combine, it's going to be very hard with, like you said, just the lack of availability, which is your most important ability.
True. Yes, exactly.
And if you're not available, it doesn't matter how good you are.
Right.
So he's going to have to go out there and really blow it out.
Yeah, he will. And clearly they're interested, right, for him to get the invite.
You get the invite.
But
you're on some people's lists.
Yeah.
You just need to go out there and show something.
I think they just want to see if he's healthy. So that would be very, very important for him. I don't know. Anybody? Oh. DeJuan Jones, I just want to bring up him for a second. So I think guys who are projected to go in the first round, C.J. Stroud, Paris Johnson, I think JSN still. And then we've seen DeJuan Jones kind of rise his draft stock because of his performance in Senior Bowl. Because we've seen it here, but he's a beast.
Yes.
And he's a massive human being. He measured the longest wingspan in Senior Bowl history. And if it stays the same measurement, I'm going to find it right here because it was just crazy.
And it will be at the combine, too.
Yes, and then it would be, he'll break the the combine record.
Without a doubt.
So he's 6'8", 360 pounds. 89.5-inch wingspan, which equates to someone who is 7'5".
Yeah.
That's a massive human being.
So at 6'8", you know, it's
a menace.
It's like if an NBA player with a huge frame put on another 120 pounds and actually had pretty good technique. He's a monster. The best thing for DeJuan was the Senior Bowl.
Yes.
You know, we've seen his film, so we know he can go against all the top-end talent and hold his own. I don't even know if he gave up a sack this season. Like the dude is locked down. The biggest issue with him was false starts.
Yeah.
For a lot of teams, they want to know, can we trust you?
Can we trust you?
There's going to be drills in the combine. Well, where they're going to give him a hard count, and they want to see all that stuff. And they saw it at the Senior Bowl. So for him, the combine's going to be more just about them seeing those measurables up close. And them seeing him physically standing next to 3 other guys that they're considering drafting at his spot. If I'm a team looking for a left tackle and I see DeJuan next to maybe, a kid from Iowa, another kid, from SC, and, and a kid from TCU, and I see DeJuan, I'm going to go, oh, yeah, one of these things is not like the other.
I want that one.
I want the big one.
I want the big one.
And I think that's kind of what's going to happen once they see him up close.
You and I have talked about in the past, you were built for the NFL. DeJuan Jones is built for the NFL. His physical attributes alone would, if I was a GM, I'd be like, oh, I want that. I want that.
And he's pretty sturdy. He remained healthy for most of his career. He's not a guy that's in and out of the training room. When you can show, hey, I'm not just big and strong, I'm durable. That was a quality I had that you just helped me out of my career. Hey, if nothing else, I'm gonna be healthy. Like I know how to take care of my body. I know how to stay healthy. And once again, it's not like any other sport. if you're a baseball player, if you're a basketball player, you can be a little bit undersized, but you can develop a skill set to excel. Look at Steph Curry and some of these guys. Like, you can have a skill set. With NFL football, you either have the measurables and the genetics to be able to survive the experience, or you do not. And if you're built for it, you're going to be fine. And if you're not, you're going to get yourself hurt. And it always weeds itself out. And it's just how the game is. This dude's built for it. He can get into a great system where they can help him with the snap count, but what they can't help, with is being 6'8", 360.
That's a God-given talent. You either have it or you don't.
Absolutely.
So also, I want to look at center Luke Whippler, because he was a guy that Ryan Day was a little bit surprised that he went ahead and declared for the draft.
Sure.
Now they have to fill that role next season,
too. He was hoping to have him back.
Yeah, he was. Now he has to fill that hole too, but with Luke, you and I were talking off camera, the way that he handled Jalen Carter in the Peach Bowl, he was like, you know what? I could do this. I just handled Jalen Carter, who at one point, I can't remember if he still is or not, but the projected first-round draft pick. So it's like,
beyond first-round draft pick. Jalen Carter is
a monster.
Georgia 3-tech Jalen Carter, who is every bit of 6'4", 300 and maybe 5 pounds or so, athletic, twitchy, strong at the point of contact, does great on the run, does great on the pass. He's going to have one of those Pro Bowl kind of careers at the next level. And Luke Whippler, one-on-one in the trenches, held him to like 1 tackle and no sacks in the Peach Bowl. And when you watch the footage, the times where Luke did get a true one-on-one, because, he's a center. He's got a guard here, and they're all banging around in there. But there were about a handful of snaps where those two locked up one-on-one. Luke stoned him at the line of scrimmage and just handled him. And I think if I'm somebody watching that film, if I'm a GM watching the film of that game, I'm going to come away from that game going, hey, who's that OSU center, man?
Let's rewatch
man, that kid looked good. Like, he handled his business. And when you do that, you raise some eyebrows and you catch the attention. And that's how you earn a spot for yourself at the next level, by competing against the best and showing out, which he did. I know it was probably surprising for Ryan. Like, hold on, man, we were counting on having you.
Wait a minute.
And I think Luke's kind of going, hey, look,
I got to strike while the iron's hot.
You got to strike while the iron's hot. By the way, the NFL, I tell young kids all this time, and it's not that I'm encouraging them to leave early. What I would tell them, though, is the NFL will value youth over experience when it comes to fresh talent. If you have option of getting a 5th-year senior who's got tons and tons of experience, but now he's 22 and a half, maybe going on 23, or you can get a junior who's not as experienced, maybe doesn't even have as good of numbers as the 5th-year senior, but the numbers are similar, and he might be slightly more athletic and younger. They're going to go with the younger guy. So you want to have an opportunity to have a fresh, long career, and the faster you start, the faster you have a chance at that. And I think a lot of that depends on the player's maturity, how they do at the next level.
And Luke was very mature. He has a high football IQ. He's a really good leader, very well-spoken. I was impressed with him even just in interviews. Very intelligent. So
which is important. Very,
for a center. So he should be good. But I was a little bit surprised by that, but we'll see how he performs.
Absolutely.
Bench press,
He'll be
we're
fine.
looking for that one. He'll be okay.
A great combine, though, would boost him.
Yes.
Because so he'll have the opposite problem as CJ, where they're going to go, your film looks good against that one guy. We don't really have a ton of. It'll make them go back and look at his body at work because he performs so well. And if it looks good, he'll be fine. Which I've watched some of him. He's always handled his business. But if he goes into the combine and has basically the kind of numbers that are consistent with NFL centers and what their performances were at the combine, then it gives that team a way to kind of stamp him and go, okay, cool. What we were thinking about him is true. He has all the measurables that most centers have. His numbers looked like most NFL centers. He's probably going to be a safe pick. And that's what the combine really is about. Yes, and I would put him in that category of need to have a good combine. And I also think that him interviewing and talking to the GMs and the coaches are also going to do wonders for him as well. Anybody else that you had a question about, or what are you looking forward to? Honestly, there's a kid that reminds me of myself in this combine for Ohio State. Zach Harrison? Zach Harrison. I think he really, towards the later half of the season, really the whole season, played his way into the top 3 rounds. If you were to ask people 2 years ago, or even after his junior year, what do you think of his projected impact in the NFL, people would have said, I don't know, he late round pick, maybe even undrafted. He comes back for his senior year, and he quietly just put together a fantastic campaign. Sack numbers were very solid, nothing mind-blowing. But when you cut on the film, He's winning one-on-ones. He's making plays behind the line of scrimmage, and he's doing things that impactful players do. He's stopping screens. He's stopping reverses. He's getting in the throwing lanes. He's knocking down passes. He's 6'5" and some change, and he is 270 pounds, and he's athletic as all get out.
Athletic.
You can't teach these things. I have a feeling, actually, Zach Harrison's going to be one of these guys that gets to the next level and ends up performing better than people thought
he was going to
in a different system.
Yeah.
You know,
I could see that
too. That
too.
kind of happened for me. I didn't have mind-blowing statistical numbers my senior year at Ohio State, but when you cut on the film, I was beating guys. You know, you ran my side, that play wasn't going anywhere. You get to the next level, and now I'm no longer a heavy 5 technique like I was at Ohio State. Now I'm a true, 7 to 9 technique, and I'm getting one-on-ones all day long in practice and all day long in games because I have other elite defensive linemen playing with me, and my numbers went up and everything, and my performance raised because of the nature of the NFL game. Is very, very different than the college game. People don't know that. It's a different game. The ball's a different size. The hash marks are different. Zach, if he can go to the combine, if he can run well, if he can, he'll lift fine, all that stuff. But if he goes out there and runs a 40 that kind of opens people's eyes,
speaking of,
that is going to change everything for him.
He ran a 4.47 in high school, the 40-yard dash.
Let me tell you something.
That's high school.
If Zach, and then I had him on our show, on our high school show, like 5 years ago when he was in high school, and he was probably 250. We'll say maybe 245. So he was skinnier then, but so athletic. And if he can go out there at 270 and run, let's say he goes out there and runs a 4.68 or 4.70 at 270. Let me tell you something right now. Those are first-round defensive end. You are flying. Moving. That's a first-round defensive end. If I got a kid with those measurables, and I'm a GM and I'm going, man, this kid is 6'5", 6'6". He's 270 pounds. He just ran a 4.69 or 4.70. You can't teach that. You have to go get that kid because somebody else will.
So it'll be important for him to perform well to just up his draft stuff. And I like that you said he quietly made himself into this conversation because it's true. He just put his head down and worked.
He had a bunch of really good games. He didn't have like that one game that was
flashy.
So like Tui Maloau had the Penn State game that was like the game for all games for defensive linemen. Like us defensive linemen dream about games like that. Zach didn't have one of those kind of games, but he had like 5 games where he was like, either had a sack, some knockdown passes, tackle for loss, made a big play. Late in the season, I think, and I want to say it was Maryland. I forget. He had that safety.
Yes.
Like it was a big play late in the game that was critical.
He had like back-to-back sacks.
Yes,
and then
those are huge.
And then somebody returned it for the touchdown late there. Yeah, that sealed the deal.
Correct.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
What that tells me, if I'm evaluating his film, is like, okay, in high leverage moments, this dude cuts it on. Like when it's money time, which in the NFL they call the money down, third down, and you need to go make something happen.
He's turning it on.
He's getting back there, making something happen. I want a guy like that.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Absolutely.
All right, Jay. Any other final thoughts as we look towards this weekend?
If I could give all of the young guys advice on this combine experience, do not freak out. Do everything you can to give yourself the best opportunity for success. Get a lot of rest. Try to get as much sleep as you can heading into this thing because it's going to be a mental and physical and emotional grind. Don't let any of the weird questions freak you out. Shake everyone's hand, look them in the eye, and let these teams know that football is important to you, because at the end of the day, they want to find out who loves this and who's really going to be invested in having a career. And as a Hall of Fame player once told me after a tough loss my rookie year, he said, listen, if you ever want to have a career in this league, you got to start one. And what he meant was you have to be intentional about what you're doing here. You're not just here playing football. You're here to have a career. And if you want to build a career, there are certain things you have to do, and there's a certain mental, kind of standard you have to adhere to in how you go about your business of being a professional. And that's what these guys are about to embark on. They're about to learn what it means to be a pro. Very different than college, man. This is all you're gonna have to do all day long. There's no class. No one cares about your relationship with your girlfriend if it's not going well. No one cares about if your family's asking for money and you don't have time to answer every call. Your job is to go out there on that field and perform, and then to do everything you can to continue to grow and learn as an athlete. And this is just step one. Have fun. Don't worry about it. Run as fast as you can, because at the end of the day, that's all that really matters.
Just run fast.
Just run fast.
I think I would kill it in the interview portion, just saying.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I think that would be my strength.
You're confident. You'd shut it down.
I'm very confident. And I love the game, so that wouldn't be questioned. But the rest of the physical attributes I might struggle with, but it's fine.
You know, you're not going to have maybe the wingspan they're looking for, but I bet you're quick.
So?
I bet you're quick. Short area burst.
Back in the day when I
What sport did you play in high school? Soccer.
I wasn't good enough to play high school. So
okay. Elementary soccer?
Yeah, grade school. I was on the travel team, though.
Runs around and calls over?
I was on the B team.
Okay.
I was painfully average.
So we got a B-list elementary soccer player who's got a lot of heart.
That's right. I'm very coachable, too. I'm very coachable. They can mold me.
Coaching. That's an important aspect, by the way, the next level.
Yeah,
That's going to be one of those things. If you're not coachable, they'll say you can't take coaching. You'll get labeled a guy that just doesn't listen, and, you can struggle. So be coachable, too. So that's important.
There you go.
Kellyanne Stitts,
stuff.
coachable out there.
That's right. And Jay Richardson, the pro, thank you so much for joining me.
Anytime. We'll be doing this again post combine as we enter the draft, and then we'll be giving everybody kind of inside look on how this draft is going to go for our Buckeyes, and we'll know a lot after the combine.
We certainly will. Thank you so much.
All right, till next time.